Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Stress Podcast. I am so excited to have you today on the show and our next podcast interview guest, and it's Lori Saitz. Hi, Lori. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here, Julie.
Yeah. Lori, I always start my podcast with a few very simple questions. Number one is the question, where are you located? Number two, what time is it? And number three, what have you been up to this morning or all day, depending on your time zone?
Yeah, I am in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. It is 1:36 in the afternoon. And I actually host a podcast as well called Fine is a Four-Letter Word, and new episodes come out every Thursday morning. So I've been writing some content to share with the world about this latest episode. And then I've also been working on LinkedIn posting. I posted LinkedIn every day. So make sure I do that. And and then I was participating in some sales training earlier this morning.
Oh, very cool. So very diverse morning.
Yes. Yes.
Very cool. And how do you have a special way on how to start your day?
I do. I always do a meditation when I first wake up. So really almost before I get out of bed, before I get into my day, so I use an app called Insight Timer primarily.
I know that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a great one. So I do have phone. Yeah. I do have to look at my phone to pull that up, but I don't look at anything else. Like I'm not looking at texts or emails before I go to my meditation.
Okay.
So I do that first thing in the morning to get my head in the right space and to set my intentions for the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a cool way. How long is the meditation?
It depends. I do different ones. What do I feel like today?
Cool. I wanted to ask you because I use Insight Timer as well. And for everyone that's listening, it's a great meditation app that's free. Like there's a free version, and then there's obviously a paid version nowadays as well. And there is a yoga nidra meditation on there, which is kind of yoga nidra helps really with sleep and kind of going into the subconscious mind. And I think I discovered this app, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago, a really long time ago. There wasn't even a paid version when I first got on Insight Timer. And when I was having trouble sleeping, I would listen to this specific yoga nidra meditation, and I have it actually downloaded and liked on my Insight Timer. And that's why I asked if you're always doing the same one, because obviously there are so many different meditations out there. And I've tried others over the course of the years, but I always go back to that one because it's so helpful. I find it really helpful, and it always helps me to fall asleep and kind of relax. It's a 25-minute meditation, and I don't do it every night anymore, but like I went through phases where this would be like my total set routine. So I'm glad that you're mentioning that as well. And I find it, I think it's really interesting you say that you do that in the morning, because do you find it hard sometimes to stay awake when you do that? Like, do you feel like so awake in the morning that you just like feel like you can do it without getting back to sleep?
Yes, I don't fall back asleep, but actually that's the best time to do a meditation is that time when you're kind of like half awake, half asleep. Then especially if you're doing like affirmations or whatever programming you're doing, it goes straight into your subconscious and benefits you in the best way because you're in that alpha state. So, which, like I said, is between between awake and asleep is the best time to program your subconscious mind. So I never feel like I'm going to fall back asleep unless, I don't. And to your point too, I started more recently listening to music, healing frequency music on that time, on Insight Timer as I'm falling asleep. I don't usually have trouble falling asleep, but it's just a nice way to drift into sleep.
Very nice. Yeah, that sounds really cool as well. And I also have to mention before we obviously start getting to know you even better, the different vision boards that you have behind you. I see
Yeah,
like two. That's
I
awesome.
have
Do
a
you want
couple.
to tell us a little bit about it? Is it like from different years or for
It
different
is.
topics?
Yeah, very, yeah, insightful. So this one is from, I want to say 3 years ago, but there's still stuff on it that's relevant, like my
Okay.
Porsche 911 that
Oh,
it's been
love
on there
that.
for a while. Like, yes, I love that car. Um, yeah, so I had developed that one, and still, even some of the things that are on it that have been manifested, it just is reinforces that. And then this other one over here, hang on, I can't reach it. I'm like stuck with my microphone here. Here we go. So this one I did actually just a few months ago. I was at a retreat, and this was part of one of the exercises that we did. And it's funny because I wasn't finding the pictures that I wanted, and I was a little disappointed in it. And I was like, but the person who was leading the exercise said, it doesn't matter. It's really about the intentions that you're putting to it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so, the more I look at it, I'm still like, oh yeah, that's cool. It does represent things that I enjoy doing, the paddle boarding and the, being by the ocean, or, being in a nice like vacation kind of location, that if I could have a house that was like being on vacation all the time, that would be awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And then look, here it's like two women doing a
podcast.
broadcast. So here we are.
Very cool. And do you have like a special guest that you would like to ever have on your podcast show that you put that on? Or is it more like the intention of like talking more to like
it's more the intention of doing more collaborative projects.
Amazing. Very cool. All right. So Lori, now that we have covered the basic things in the background, let's talk about you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about who you are, what you've been up to, what's your work, what do you focus on? And yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, I have a background in marketing and corporate communications and broadcasting. Actually, when I started college, I was a broadcast major. So I love having a microphone, being on a stage, speaking in front of people, and actually taking it back even a little further. When I was growing up, I always pictured myself as a teacher. But, back then, the image of a teacher is like in front of a classroom of children. That's what we had as a role model. But I see now that I am a teacher in a different capacity. Now I'm teaching adults, not children so much. And it's not in a classroom setting that way, but from a stage, from a podcast, from a online course, whatever it is, it's teaching in a different way. And it really fuels my soul to do that.
Yeah. And so what do you teach?
So my program is called Fuck Being Fine, because people reach this point in life, especially when they start getting to midlife, and they reach this point where they're like, they've been saying everything is fine, but it really isn't fine. There's something irritating them, or there's something that just isn't sitting right with them. And they've been saying everything's fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's, look at all I have. I should be happy with this. But it keeps bugging and nagging at them that there's something more, and that their soul is longing for something more. And so they reach this point where they're just like, screw it. I'm done being fine. I want something better. And so I teach them how to get that. And ultimately what I'm teaching people is how to stay calm and grounded no matter what's going on around them. And I do that primarily using the concepts of gratitude and meditation.
Okay.
But how we do that isn't so much important as why we're doing it. And once somebody learns how to become calm and grounded, no matter what's going on around them, they become more profitable. They have more energy, and they are just generally happier overall. So, and I tend to work with people in sales positions.
Very cool. And so first question, like what is the age range when you think about like midlife? Because I'm like, is it 30s? Is it 40s? Is it 50s? Like how, like
Yeah.
what do you usually see? Like what kind of age range are your clients in?
That's the interesting thing, because when I started doing this, I thought it was going to be primarily women in their 40s and 50s. And yet then I started hearing from men. In fact, I just launched a couple of weeks ago, I launched a new small group program, and the majority of people in it are men. So it's interesting, but, and I've had, you know, the millennials. So typically they're starting to be 30s. In their early 40s now, 30s and like early 40s now. Yeah. So the older millennials through 40s and 50s are typically who I'm working with. And again, for that reason of they've had some life experience, and now they're looking at their life going, is this what I want it to be?
Is this all there is kind of a thing?
Yeah. And even if it's been good up to this point, we're not saying their life has been horrible. They're still questioning, okay, what more is there? What else can I do?
How did you get into this line of work? So you said you had this kind of like marketing, corporate communications background, and then did you work in corporate for a few years?
I did, but also always small companies, small entrepreneurial companies. So I never worked for like a really big giant company with 10,000 employees. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Nice.
And I started my first business in 2003, and I was making and marketing a product called the gratitude cookie. Now, this was based on a family recipe.
Okay.
And it's actually like a cross between a butter and a sugar cookie. And I was marketing it as a gift package, as a way for businesses to say thank you to their clients and to people who send them referrals.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started talking about gratitude and how gratitude changes your outlook on life, your physiology, how you respond to things. And most specifically, because I was selling to businesses, how gratitude affects how you can use gratitude in business as a differentiator and as a way to stand out from your competition. Yeah.
Wow. And that's also like so ahead of time, I feel like, right? Like 20 years ago, almost now, I feel like, I don't know, did we really talk that much about gratitude yet? I feel like nowadays there's so much research on like the power of gratitude. And yeah, how did you get, like, how did that idea form?
So this is the interesting thing that you say that, right. And almost 20 years ago, like I can't, until you just said that, I'm like, wow, yeah, that was a long time ago. And I think it may have been a little bit ahead of its time, because I ran that business for 11 years and I couldn't quite scale it the way I wanted to. And I ended up shutting it down because I think maybe it was a step or two ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And
then what happened after that? So you started this first company, shut it down after a while. And then what did you get into after that?
I started teaching. So I will just say that I shut it down in 2014 because I couldn't scale it. And at that same time, my mom was diagnosed with an acute form of leukemia. And she ended up passing away like 6 weeks later. And so as I was mourning her death, the death of my business at the same time, that's when I really started thinking about like that same question of, okay, do I want to live the next 20 years the same way I lived the last 20? What do I want to do differently in my life? And I think this is really, again, a reason why people reach midlife and kids are growing up and moving out of the house. Parents are passing away. You've been in relationships for a long time, or maybe a career for a long time. And that's when you really start reevaluating, is this serving me? So so I did that. And then I actually ended up leaving my marriage after 22 years for that same reason. Wow. Like, okay, we are both good people. That marriage was fine. It was fine, but it wasn't great. It wasn't serving either one of us in the way that we would have liked. And so, so that's kind of where I actually went into teaching networking strategies.
Okay.
for before pandemic. In between shutting that business down and pandemic, I was teaching how to walk into a room full of people you don't know and start a conversation. How do you do the follow-up after an event, which everybody sucks at? So
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
So you went through a lot of different things. And then when did you start this business?
About a year and a half ago. Pandemic gave a lot of people the opportunity to, again, have time, not have as many distractions, to sit and think, how do I want to keep working at the same job I've been doing? Or do I want to stay, living this way? And that was the case for me. I had a lot of time to think about what do I want to do. I couldn't teach networking strategies anymore because nobody was going
because
anywhere.
Nobody was networking. Yeah.
Right. Well, people were networking in a different way, but
and virtually. Yeah.
So I actually was asked by somebody who knew me from the first business to do a presentation virtually on gratitude. And that kind of pulled me back into that whole world of talking again about gratitude and how it affects everything.
Yeah. Going full circle.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, I started creating customized gratitude meditations. So none of my meditations are on Insight Timer yet, but I've created more than 50.
Wow.
Meditations. And then I also do, like I said, as customized for individuals, which incorporates their memories, their experiences, things that they are manifesting into a meditation.
So powerful. And so when people are listening right now and they feel heard by you and by us talking about kind of this like midlife point, feeling like everything is fine, but maybe having the feeling that it's fine, but what else is out there? Where do you usually start? Like what is the next step once you maybe consciously identify that, it's fine, but is there all that is kind of a question?
Yeah. Well, so in my program, there's this, the program has a foundation called the Trilogy for Success. And the Trilogy is, not surprisingly, gratitude, connections, and courage. And so I take people through those three pillars, and starting with gratitude, like where can you find gratitude in your life? So yes, everything may not be as you want it. However, where is the gratitude? Because no matter how bad a situation looks, there's always some silver lining, some place where you can find gratitude if you're looking for it. And so it's a refocusing of attention. What are you putting your attention on? And so I would advise, listeners to take that first step and look at where can you find the gratitude?
Yeah. It makes me think of my journey with gratitude, because I remember really clearly when I started with gratitude, which was in the summer of 2018, when I burned out and took a medical leave for 3 months. And I established a new morning routine, or I established a morning routine during that time that was healthier for me. And part of the morning routine was to practice gratitude every morning, write down 3 things that I feel grateful for, and challenge myself also to find something different and more specific than the previous day, to not just be like, oh, I'm grateful for my house and my job and my family, but, to kind of go more into depth and find like small things that would make me happy. And it's been such an interesting process for me, because I feel like now after, almost 4 years doing this, it's so interesting how I rewired my brain through that process. And now when difficult things happen in my life, I immediately, my brain immediately always jumps to, yeah, but this, I can still see the beauty in things, and I can still appreciate challenges for new opportunities to grow. And, I'm always like, oh, what is this trying to teach me? Or why is this trigger coming up? So yeah, I've definitely had a really powerful experience with gratitude myself. So I'm glad that you're bringing that up again as well. And I love the idea of having personalized, customized gratitude meditations. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and maybe what you learned in that process and how you got the idea of starting that?
Yes. And I want to first address that. I love that you said rewiring your brain, because that's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what gratitude can do, is rewire your brain, and that it's a process that anyone can learn. Because a lot of times I get asked, what if you're not a naturally grateful person? Can it be learned? And you just illustrated exactly how, yes, it can be learned. So,
and I'm going to say one thing to that as well, because I remember I had a client that was, I would say pretty severely depressed and anxious at the time when I worked with him. And we would go through that process at the beginning of each coaching session. I would ask him, but what are things, because he was so looking at so many negative things and he was like pulling all of these things up. We would sometimes we would go through this almost painful question for him of, what are you grateful for? Like, what are some good things that are happening in your life? And there were multiple sessions where he was like, there's nothing, like, I can't think of anything right now. And then, we would like talk through things, and then he would be like, yeah, I think I can be grateful for this, or I can be grateful for that. So it was a really interesting process for me as well, because I think, some, like you said, some people might be a little bit more negative, or they feel like there's nothing good in their lives, right? And it's really a muscle almost that you train. And for some people it might come so easy that they might think right now, even listening to the podcast, they might be like, yeah, okay, like that's kind of a simple thing to do, right? But for some people it might be really difficult. And to just appreciate like the people that are listening right now and that feel like, I find it really difficult to find like positive things in my life right now, because everything seems so hard and so challenging. I'm sure, like, when you just talked about your process in 2014, like the failed business and the mom that, passed away and your marriage ending. I mean, that's like, kind of all the things falling apart at the same time, kind of.
Yeah. And it is right. It becomes a learned process, or a learning. Yeah. The more you do it, the better you get at it. In the same way, I think we're born with a positive outlook, and we are kind of programmed then to look for negative things to complain about, things to criticize. That is also, again, the more you look for things to be anxious or angry or resentful about, the more of those things show up. It works both ways.
Well, when you went, I'm actually curious. Sorry, I know I asked you this other question. I still want to get into that,
okay.
But I'm curious. In 2014, when you experienced all of these difficult things, could you still kind of challenge yourself to practice gratitude because you were already so aware of gratitude practice, or did you feel like you kind of jumped almost off it and then kind of came back to it later?
No, there was still a lot of gratitude. I didn't leave my marriage until 2018. So it was still 4 years later. It wasn't all at once.
Okay.
Yeah. However, it was difficult to shut down the business. The business is almost harder to, than my mom passing, because my identity was so tied up into it. So it was almost like, okay, if I don't have this business, then who am I? So that was difficult, but yeah, I mean, I could still find things to be grateful for. And actually looking back, not right in that moment, but maybe a year or two later, looking back, I saw where I learned this practice of gratitude from, and it was from my mom. So even when she was in hospice, like on her last days that she was conscious, she was still everything like, thank you to all the caretakers. Like, it's bringing tears to my eyes to remember this, because she was just so grateful always for a lot of the things that she had. So that's where that was a great lesson that I didn't recognize at the time until I was looking back on it. Yeah. And then, leaving the marriage, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, ever. Because like I said, there wasn't like abuse. It wasn't horrible. And yet I was the one initiating this and breaking this up. Even though it was for the best for both of us. But yeah, it's hard to, and still having this grateful outlook. I am so grateful I have friends to help me through this. I'm so grateful I have, the financial means or whatever it is.
Sure.
It doesn't, everybody, I didn't almost want to mention that, because if there's a will, there's a way. So it doesn't, you don't have to be financially sufficient. There's other ways if that's something, because I know that's something that keeps people stuck in marriages for a long time, is I'm afraid because I don't have the money. So I didn't almost want to mention that, but again, it's finding the gratitude for everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I celebrate that too now. Like, I feel like my gratitude practice has advanced so much that I'm, sometimes writing down, I'm grateful for my courage, or I'm grateful for my curiosity, or I'm grateful for, like just kind of more like attributes and like things that I'm doing for myself than just really always this kind of external stuff, right? Like, I feel like it's so much easier to be like, oh, I'm grateful for the birds chirping and for like blue skies, or like, those are also nice things to be grateful for. But yeah, I think it's almost like even more powerful. And I've been going through a breakup in 2020 that was almost kind of like leaving a marriage for me. And that was really difficult for me at the time. And I kind of talk about it the same way, like the hardest thing I've probably done in my life. And it really helped me to practice more self-love through that gratitude practice, and to be more like, what am I doing for myself right now that actually helps me be better and show up as a better person.
Yeah. And that's where the gratitude and the meditation dovetail so closely for me, that practicing meditation was really the biggest part of helping me through both of those times of difficulty, was getting into that meditation practice so that I could stay calm and grounded, even when I didn't feel like it. Going into a meditation kind of brings you back to it and keeps you grounded. And then you can have a basis from which to see more gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to that question,
I didn't forget,
which is actually perfect kind of gateway back into like, okay, so how did you kind of combine that gratitude meditation?
Yeah. So in June, after I did that presentation on gratitude, I started thinking about what else can I do to put out into the world. And so in June of 2020, everybody was doing these challenges on Facebook. I don't know if you remember, it was this kind of like, everybody was doing a 5-day challenge, a 30-day challenge, all these challenges. And I thought, oh, a gratitude challenge. No, wait. We are plenty challenged enough in June of 2020. We don't need more challenges. So I created a gratitude experience. And it was a 6-day, or I think I had a couple of bonus days in there. And for that, I wrote a gratitude meditation to help people just, again, the grounding, it was a 6-minute meditation. And one of the participants listened to it and came back to me and said, hey, I love this. Can you customize it for me? And she kind of gave me a little bit of a script of what she wanted in it. And so I played around with it and I created this meditation for her and I gave it back. I put healing frequency music underneath it. And she started listening to it every day. And she came back a couple of months later and said she had manifested a raise in her job, a new condo that was in a better location and cost less than the one she had been in. And then this crazy thing. So it's a long story, but she manifested a tree outside her bedroom window. It was the exact tree, the type of tree that she loved. And like these crazy things happened. Yeah. That could only kind of be attributed to the fact that she was listening to this meditation every day and, putting that energy out into the universe, that feeling as if she had already manifested it through this meditation. So that's when I started thinking, well, hey, maybe this is a product I could create for other people and put it out. And every single person who has asked me to do one for them comes back. This made me cry the first time I listened to it because it's so powerful. because it is so personalized. There are questions. I have people fill out a questionnaire, and then we do a quick video chat call before I record it. Yeah. So there's a lot of energy that goes into it, and the music underneath it that makes it so powerful. I don't know anybody else who's doing them the way I'm doing them.
Yeah. I'm like, I want one. Can we talk about this after the podcast?
Yes, we can.
This is awesome. I love that. Okay. So this is incredible. So, okay. So you kind of started with that, but then you established also the program, right? That came
after. Yeah.
Okay. And so you were saying it combines gratitude, social connections, and courage.
Connections in general.
Okay.
Yeah. Gratitude, connections, and courage. Under the connections part, we talk about connections to other people. Most importantly, though, the connection to yourself. And that's where that meditation piece comes in. So anybody who participates in the program, part of the program is a customized gratitude meditation, because right, keeping or building that connection, like you talked about doing when you were going through your experience, your rough experience. And same for me, is building that connection with yourself through meditation. I mean, meditation is the way I teach it. There are other ways, journaling, tapping, EFT. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with your inner voice. Meditation is just the way that I prefer and the way that I teach. Very cool. And then courage, because, you have the gratitude, you have the connection to yourself. And now you need the courage to do whatever it is that you need to do. It doesn't have to be jumping off a cliff. It doesn't have to be leaving a marriage and moving all the way across the country the way I did. It doesn't have to be so dramatic. And there are people every single day who want to take something that might seem like a small step to you and me, but feels monumental to them. And so how do you get the courage to do the thing that you need to do?
Do you have a process or an idea when people are identifying as like they maybe feel fine, but they don't really know what it is? They can't really pinpoint, like, is it my career? Is it my, partnership? Is it my community? How do you find or rediscover what's really important for you?
It comes back to getting in touch with that inner voice. Again, if it's not through meditation, it could be, just unplugging from all of the social media and all of the electronics. Can you spend some time away from your phone, turn everything off, take a walk in nature, whatever it is, coming back to yourself? Because I truly, truly believe that when you are in that place where you're saying, I don't know, you do know. And I hate that question of when, I don't know if you've ever I have a friend, Janine, who used to always do this to me. I would say, well, I'm not sure what to do. I don't know. And she's like, but what if you did know? Oh, don't ask it to what if you did know? Like, that's such a coach question. Like, then it just annoyed me. Well, but I don't know. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that inside, we do know the answer. It's a matter of getting quiet enough to hear it, because what we typically are hearing are all the voices outside of us, our friends, our family, our society, social media, traditional media, everybody's chattering, and you don't hear what is your inner truth? What is your truth?
Yeah. And I think it also actually comes back to courage now that you're kind of talking about it, because I think sometimes we do know, but it's really, really scary to be like, yeah, that's the problem, kind of a thing. Right.
Right. But you don't want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's all these signs, and maybe your intuition gives you this like really weird feeling. Like, I know that that's kind of how it was in that relationship that I just mentioned. And then I didn't have the courage at the time to be like, this is really not feeling right. Right. And the other idea that I had kind of when it comes to finding or rediscovering your purpose is actually like, I'm looking right at it, like your vision board in the background behind you. I think this is such a cool exercise as well. I have multiple vision boards like here around me in my office as well, because I feel like sometimes we don't know but then, maybe as we're maybe going through magazines and we're looking at pictures, maybe we just take the things at that time that we feel drawn to. And then maybe we'll talk, we use this maybe first of all to sit with ourselves in silence, like see what kind of words and what kind of pictures we're drawn to. And then maybe the next step is to find someone to explain, to just be like, why did you choose that picture? Like, I see so many things in your background where I'm like, I'd love to ask you so many questions. Like, why did you pick this? And why did you pick that? And I think that can really help us find that inner truth as well. And what makes us really feel excited, because I think sometimes what happens when we are kind of going in this path is that spark, like what sparks us actually, what makes our eyes like widen a little bit and like shine and be like excited about. And I think, one of the things that really came up for me as well as I was reading about your work and the things that you do to help people is I think oftentimes, especially when we're growing up, we don't really, I feel like we're so unconscious still in a way, and we just follow these like societal expectations, right? Like, yes. I remember when I was 18, I mean, like, what do you do with your life, right? Like I actually felt really connected to what you were saying, because I always wanted to become a teacher. My dad is a teacher and my grandparents were teachers and my uncle and aunt are teachers. So I've had a family of teachers. And so for me, it was clear that I wanted to become a teacher. And so when I was 18 and I went into my last year of high school and had to like decide and choose which topic to pick, I said to my dad, I'm like, I'm going to become a teacher. And he's like, don't do it. And my dad, it's another story, but my dad doesn't like his job very much. And so I because I had so much trust in him, I decided to study international business and management and like, go a very different path. And it's kind of beautiful to see that now I'm actually a teacher again, but also more for adults. And I love the work that I do. And that really, and like, it's really, I'm really passionate about that. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that you follow these societal norms and expectations, right? You go to college because that's what expected of you, and you get a job because that's what expected of you. And I feel like oftentimes just in maybe like later in your 20s or early in your 30s, you're like, okay, I did all of these things and I checked all of these boxes, but it's not really making me happy. I'm fine and I'm maybe making money, or from the outside world, I have this amazing job and I have these amazing benefits. And, maybe I have even an amazing house, or like I live in a great location, but it's not really actually like, that's not fulfilling me. And I think actually, as we're talking about all of this, I do see people burn out because of that, right? Because they are like, I'm doing this, but it's not really my life's purpose, or it's not really the deeper purpose that I would like to pursue in my life.
Yeah. I just heard someone say recently that they were climbing a ladder that was it was against the wrong wall. So they didn't end up where they did the things, but they didn't end up where they wanted to be because they weren't climbing in the right place.
Yeah. It's really important work. Tell us a little bit more about your podcast. Fine is a 4-letter word. Very interesting, title. What do you talk about in your podcast?
It's stories from people who have been in places where they said everything was fine, but it really wasn't fine at all. And what is that? Is it a marriage? Is it a job? Is it any kind of situation? I have all kinds of stories on this show of these people who have been in this place, sometimes didn't even realize that it wasn't fine. Some was clearly it wasn't fine, and yet they stayed there because they didn't know what else to do. And so it's that story. And then the rest of the story is, and then how did they get from that place to where they are now?
Yeah, that's so cool.
All about stories.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Lori, if people are curious to learn more about you or get a customized gratitude meditation, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, my company is called Zen Rabbit. So my website is zenrabbit.com. And that's really the best place to find me. And you can also get that 6-minute customized gratitude, not customized, sorry, the 6-minute gratitude meditation that I had originally created, you could get that for free on the website.
On the website. Awesome. Yeah. Great. Well, this was really interesting. Thank you so much for talking to us today and for reminding us about the power of gratitude and courage and connection and how these are all interrelated with each other. I hope that you'll have a lot of people reach out to you to get a customized gratitude meditation, because I think that's a really, really powerful tool to really help you personally in your own lives. I've been doing, like, besides meditations, I actually have in my 10-week program, I have something called Brain Tap. Have you heard of the Brain Tap app?
No.
It's similar idea where Brain Tap, and they have millions of downloads from their meditations as well. And they don't call themselves meditations. They actually call themselves performance-based application. So it's also like the combination of brain frequencies matched with different tools like stress management, sleep, performance management, and they customized actually sessions for my program. So people that are doing my program, they do basically the module, and then they listen during the week to these specific brain-based applications as well in order to support the learning. And a lot of people have given me feedback on how powerful that piece was. And we've actually done research and have been able to show how much more powerful the results of participants were when they went through the meditation on top of just the program. So we did kind of an A/B test. So I'm absolutely aware of how powerful it is to do customized meditations with kind of this like learning frequency, because it just connects in a really different way to your brain, and there's tons of research behind it. So we're gonna stop the recording now, but I'm very excited to continue talking with you about my personalized meditation. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you, and I'll wish you all the best for your business.
Okay.